How's it going, guys? This is Wayne Art, back with something a little bit different today. Just lately I've been sort of inundated with private messages about people who want to do gigs, whether it be a full-on gig or just playing at a funeral or a party, just one song or a collection of songs. It's how to sort of prepare for that, because it's a very nerve-wracking thing. If you've never sort of performed in public before, it's not as easy as just standing up and doing it, Obviously nerves are a big sort of factor in this. So these are sort of just a few sort of basic tips, just really to make things go a little bit smoother for you. And a lot of them sort of obvious things, but sort of in the heat of the moment, when you're nervous, you sort of forget about these things. So tip number one is, whether it be sort of one song or a collection of songs, is prepare a set list, okay? If you're doing more than one song, have a set list, and every time you practice, always practice those songs in the order that you're going to do them to on either the day or the night, depending on what the event is, and really practice getting those songs nailed. A good thing is within those songs, maybe try and add a little bit of light and shade, so they're not very sort of one-dimensional. And what I mean by that, I posted a lesson up recently, which was Zombie by the Cranberries. Now, Zombie by the Cranberries is a brilliant song, and it's really easy to play. It's basically sort of 4 chords all the way through, pretty much. There's just a couple of sort of breakdown bass parts, but basically when we're playing that song, it's good to give it a bit of light and shade, even though it's one level all the way through, the same chords all the way through, is make the verses a little bit quieter than the choruses. So you got the another mother's breaking, heart is taking over, and then the chorus, in your head, really lift it in the chorus, and you'd be surprised how much difference that can add to a song. It completely takes the one-dimensional thing away and makes it instantly sort of more interesting. So that's a bit of a tip. Add a bit of light and shade in the song. Practice makes progress, okay? So what I mean by that, practice doesn't make perfect. Don't expect to practice Wonderwall and beat yourself up because you want it to sound exactly like Noel Gallagher plays it. I'm just using that song as a sort of an example, because I think Noel even plays that probably different every time he plays it. He even plays it different these days, because he plays a slowed down version based on the Ryan Adams cover. But anyway, don't expect it to get it absolutely sounding identical to the proper version of that song. Obviously you can get it close, concentrate on getting it close, work on the strumming pattern, but don't be scared of turning it into your own song, whether you play it a little bit slower or a little bit more up-tempo, or even of a different key. If you struggle singing it with a capo on the 2nd fret, just using that song as an example still, don't be scared of singing it in a higher pitch or an open key, a lower pitch, whatever you're comfortable with. So obviously, practice makes progress, and don't expect to do it exactly like the original. Do what you want with it and make it more interesting. That's what makes songs stand out sometimes. Another thing with the songs is do songs that people are really familiar with. For example, Wonderwall, or a Beatles song, or a song by, I don't know, Robbie Williams or someone like that. Don't sort of take on it for your first performance, like for example a Beatles obscure B-side that no one's going to know. Obviously crowds can be very fickle when you're playing in pubs and things. I think a lot of people would be happy to stare at a fruit machine for 2 hours rather than listen to live music. So at least if you're playing something familiar, you're going to make people's ears sort of prickle, okay? So there we go. So a bit of light and shade on the songs. Obviously have a set list, practice those songs. Don't be scared of changing them around a little bit and turning them into your own, and make them your songs. And another thing is teething problems. Obviously, it's always sod's law that if you don't prepare for these things, something always goes wrong. So one thing is if you're doing it, a proper gig where you're playing, I don't know, 6 songs or more, always try and have a backup guitar, because it's always guaranteed if you've not got one, you'll either break a string or something will go wrong with it. So always, if you can, have a backup guitar, a backup acoustic. Or if you can't afford an acoustic, at least make sure you got a spare set of strings, and then you can maybe just have a break and put another string on and explain to the crowd and then go back on again. Another thing is check you got a good battery in your guitar, good battery life. Most people will be playing with an electroacoustic, This acoustic has like you know, the little square 9-volt one. A lot of the other you know, modern day acoustics have the little sort of cell batteries, the little round ones. So make sure there's plenty of life in that battery. You don't want it to sort of die on stage and, you know, things to go wrong like that. All basic things, but trust me, you know, make sure you've always got backups. A backup lead. It's always essential to have a backup jack lead. Jack leads go on, you know, wonky all the time, you know, faulty connections and things like that. So always have a, you know, a spare jack lead, at least if your lead does go on you can sort of replace it straight away. So you know, teething problems. Always make sure your guitar's tuned up before you go on the stage. Obviously, if you do a sound check, that's another thing. It's important to do a sound check, either, you know, an hour before you go on or immediately before you go on, just to make sure you can hear everything, the guitar's coming through okay, everything's sounding okay. Make sure the mic's at the right height for you. Obviously, you forget all these things in the heat of the moment when you're nervous, but there's no point going on if, like, for example, an open mic and someone 6'5" just been on and you're trying to sing up in the mic. Either get the guy who's in charge of the PA, or if it's your PA or whatever, always, you know, adjust the mic to where you're comfortable with it. So that's another thing. But like I say, always tune your guitar up immediately before you go on stage. Because even if you do a sound check an hour before, obviously the venue, the heat of the lights and things like that, it's amazing how fast the guitar can go out of tune. So make sure you always give it a tune up, sort of, you know, before you go onto the stage. So that's another thing. So always prepare for teething problems, and the answer to that is having a spare of everything. Make sure you have a spare pick, obviously, and whether you want to stick them onto the mic stand. You see a lot of famous people doing this. They have loads of picks down the mic stand. Just stick them on with a bit of gaffer tape. Because if you drop a pick, you're not, you know, making a fool of yourself, fumbling on the floor to try and, you can just grab one straight off the mic stand and, you know, be away. Sometimes I actually put them in the end of my strings on the end of my acoustic. It's not a very sensible thing to do because it can obviously knock your guitar out of tune. But at least then you can just grab your pick and you're sort of away again. So there we go. So teething problems, always make sure you've got a backup for everything. Another thing is to try and engage with the crowd. Obviously, don't just get up there and do your thing and sing and don't even look at the crowd, be what we call the shoegazer. It's always good to have a little bit of a crack with the crowd, introduce the songs, have a bit of a laugh and joke about it. Don't worry if you make a mistake. Sometimes it's good, you know, just to make a bit of a laugh and a joke about it. Most crowds will appreciate that. And maybe just carry on with the song or start the song again. I know it doesn't look very professional, but like I say, if you make a bit of a joke about it, it's not a big thing. And it's very important to take from mistakes. Obviously, you know, you go up there, things can happen that are not really in your hands, or you can forget things because it's, you know, it's very nerve-wracking getting and singing in front of people. So obviously, if you make mistakes, obviously, you know, sort of learn with them and jot down what you'd like to do better at the end of the gig and take that into the next gig, you know. And try and sort of work on mistakes and things like that. But the most important thing is to enjoy the gig. Obviously, prepare for it and go. And most people, you'll absolutely love it. There's no better buzz than going on the stage and singing in front of people and people clapping and appreciating that. It gives you a real buzz. So that's the most important thing about playing. You know, it's once you do it, you'll get a bit of an addiction for it. Then you'll do it more often. But I do appreciate if you've never done it before, and you know, a lot of my students, I sort of encourage them. I even have some people coming up and playing with them at my local gigs just to give them a little bit of encouragement. I had a young girl the other week, she's only 13, one of my students, absolutely amazing player, great singer, but she's got no confidence whatsoever, and I just thought I'd give her a little slot to come up and sing a song with me, and she absolutely loved it. Said it went far too quick and she can't wait to get up again. So obviously it's amazing what it can do for your confidence. So that is the main thing, is to get up and enjoy it. So if there's anything I haven't covered today that you want to know, obviously you can either comment in the post below or send me a personal message. But I hope all those things that I've said today, and I do appreciate a lot of them are obvious, but like I say, in the heat of the moment, you forget these things when you're nervous. So I hope that has been helpful. So thanks everyone who sort of requested this lesson. They didn't really request this lesson, but I thought I've got that many people asking me. I thought I'd put a few sort of tips across to help you on. So, and there will, if there's any other lessons that you want tips for, whether buying a guitar or anything like that, like I say, you can either comment in the post below, or you could send me a personal message, and I do always reply to messages. So don't be scared of sending one through. Though, if you are subscribed to me and you're a regular, please hit that little subscribe button just down there somewhere. That way you'll get notified every time I put a lesson up, which is either once or twice a week, and you can get on it straight away. So that just leaves me to say have a great morning, day, night, whenever you're watching, and I'll catch you all for a lesson very soon. Take care.